Okay, so we are essentially spiritual beings in a physical body. Our thought creates reality and we're all connected. We are living in a body that is really our trap, body that is really our trap, our prison. We are living in a world that is our trap and our prison. And we are also, our own mind is a trap and a prison. All these things sort of combine to make us, all these things sort of combine to make us to where we have no real reality and to where we are living in a total illusion, really. And I know that's been the case for most of my life. It's all been a setup, confusion, chaos, which is like the world. And like I say, because we do not know ourselves or our world or our own mind, because all those three things are interacting all the time to set up a false reality for us, really, you could say, to where we think we know what's going on because we turn our internet on or the TV or something. Or even if we spoke to somebody, they would have information from some other source or even what they saw. But even if you take an eyewitness account of something, in my opinion, you are still living in an illusionary world because this whole world is a setup. Everything is like a video game. So therefore, doesn't matter what you see, doesn't matter what you know, you're really seeing an illusion and you know nothing. And this is the conclusion that I've come to, and I think it is the reality, really, is that you have to get to the point where you say you don't know a single thing. You're living in an illusion world that is set up in every single possible way. We as human beings should be able to control what's around us a lot more, but we actually control nothing. Now, there again, we have to enter further into the illusion in a way, because you have to say, well, then who controls the world, who sets up the video game, and who sets all this up to where we have a distortion of what is real, because basically very little is really real that we actually perceive to be real, which I know sounds as though it's all insane, but it is kind of all insane, and we are insane in an insane asylum, and it's kind of that makes me sound insane, and of course I am too, because I'm part of it too, and I've been part of it, and maybe more into it than even some people. But to realise to see a few deceptions is when you start to, I suppose, see that then there's more and more. So you realise that it is all artificial. Now, it is artificial in today's world because we are surrounded by so-called artificial intelligence. I say it's artificial, I don't think it's intelligent. It appears to be more intelligent than us, just like my computer knows more than what I do. But it only knows a lot of lies, and it is only there to program me, to make me stupid. So I think that it depends on how you look at that, right? Okay. Now that might sound funny for me to say that, and Look, it's a world of confusion, so no matter what I say, it's not going to make too much sense either way, because it's all a setup. There's truth with lies, there's deception with some glimpses of what might be some section of a so-called reality. It is just, we don't even know the basics, and we certainly don't know the basics of what we as even humans on this earth are. Like I say, originally, and it still holds true, I think, but it doesn't operate. We don't operate it. We are spiritual beings. Now, that sounds fancy, but we are not technical beings. We are not machines. We are surrounded by artificial intelligence, machines, technology, okay? We are not that. We are spiritual beings. Our thought creates reality. It is the complete opposite to the world that we live in. We as humans, entities, whatever you like, we are the opposite to everything that is around us. We are much more like nature as opposed to a machine, right? But we don't operate like that anymore. We operate more like a machine because we are surrounded by technology. We use technology despite the fact that we actually have our own technology, which is our own mind, which we have now given over to technology. And then that creates more technology and a sort of artificial type of intelligence, which is not spiritual and is not really even intelligent. It's what we're giving it. We're giving it the power to control us. Does that make any sense? I don't know. So that is the thing. Now, different people might argue or say who controls the matrix. The only thing you can be sure of is that we do not control it, even though our thought creates reality and we're all connected. We are so manipulated by the technology and by the matrix. And by the matrix, I mean the earth matrix. It's a setup. Everything on the earth is a setup, like a video game. I think I've said this before. So therefore it is like a matrix, and it is a control matrix. Matrix is a control because it's a setup, because it's all the players, everything's in place. It's a bit like saying, oh, all the houses are all lined up. Everything in it is put there, and every maneuver is controlled by the person that pulls the stick, the controller of the video game. But that is not us. We gave that over to the matrix, to the controller, a long time ago. You could say it's a god if you want to. As I've said before, you can put names on it. Some people have. There's a history there. There is a reality of, some people use the word archons to describe. I would go with that. That describes the whole system or the whole entities, okay? Now, how far it really goes is another thing, right, okay? When you say archons, that to me, if I've just looked into the history a little bit recently, and that sort of means certain groups of entities. I say entities because they're not human, the same as we are, you know, but some of them might look human, some might not. They're all different, probably different groups, but there would be, like in our society, which is based on theirs, by the way, I believe, the hierarchy, the control systems that we all have. Our society is only a control system. That's all it is, nothing more. Everything in place, everything, rules, regulations, this, that. It's a system, a control. That's what society is. Now, some people think that's a good thing and they think it's for their benefit. But that assumes that we cannot control ourselves and that we cannot control our natural world and our domain. I would beg to differ with that, but and I also think that, I personally think that humans should take total responsibility for themselves. They should not need systems and rules and all this. This is the hierarchy of the matrix. It's now, you know, like you think it's safe because it's all a setup. So then you need more and more to control the setup. It becomes a vicious circle. But if you look back in the past, we were a lot freer. So, you know, have we benefited by technology? Have we benefited by our society? Have we made a better world? Or have we just made it smaller and worse for ourselves? And also, are we controlling it? Because I don't think we really are. Now, you might say, well, I can't do it, so you give it over to someone else, what you think is someone else. But this is all the matrix. It's all other people, bigger people, people that you think know more. But if you look at the world, it's a big mess, isn't it? Most people would agree with that. So who are we really handing it over to? Could we make a worse mess of it ourselves, even as individuals? But we go along with everything, and I mean, it's a video game, so it's hard not to go along with it. But you know, I'm not saying that we couldn't change the video game a bit. Maybe we could, but not while we accept that it's real, that we don't have any input into it, and we certainly don't think that we are creating in it, okay? Now, even for me, this is a complicated subject. And as you can see, the video game, even around me, is all about distractions. It's not about people actually sitting down and relaxing just with, say, nature as opposed to technology, away from information, away from stimuli. It's impossible to do that. I believe if we could do that, that we would realise what we are capable of and what we really are, and how fake this world really is, and how much of a set-up system it is. And now, the Archon controllers, I say the Archon because that is the entities that I've been led to believe control this whole system. That's a word, okay? It implies, evidently from what I've been told, but I have no proof of this. But I do know that there are beings that control this matrix, because something has to. You know, a matrix doesn't just operate on its own. It should be operating with the human's thought, creating reality, and they're all connected. They should be, this is how it should operate, I think. It should be a totally natural world, 100% natural, only trees and nature, right? Humans' thought creates reality, they're all connected. They are their human internet. They are their human telephone. They are their human connections to one another. Mind connection, totally. This is how they were originally supposed to be. We have lost all of this. It was taken from us by the Archon entities that rule, by intervention, the missing link, breeding with other species that are not the same as us. If you breed with something different to yourself, you're going to create a hybrid breed, a crossbreed that will be inferior to the original breed. It has to be that way because you're mixing the genes and things. It's just common sense. Even we all know that. We all know if you breed a cat with a dog, you're going to come up with something a bit less than both those things. Might be interesting, might still be able to function, but it will be less. This is what's happened to the human being when they bred with the other beings, archons. That's the word I use for the description, but I believe that it was probably more a breeding with Anunnaki human type entities, okay? But they're still technological beings. So as you can imagine, if humans interbreed with something that that has a technological kind of basis, and there again, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I know they were beings. They looked human, and they created a large amount of us as we are now, okay? And I personally think that humans originally, before the intervention, before the missing link, before the Archon, and they are parasites because they feed off humans, and this is why we say Archon parasites, because they use us. So that's a parasite, okay? We don't use them, they use us, but we are manipulated. We are in their matrix, we are in their world. Now, this is a godlike thing. We thought they were gods originally, I believe. And they were, in the sense that at the time, as I've said before, they were technologically extremely advanced, extremely. And they lived for astronomical amounts of time. But they were still technical beings. Humans live for a very limited amount of time by comparison with them. 150,000 years for them, 60 or 70 for us if we're lucky, or maybe a bit more. Originally it was a bit more. But what I'm saying is that also is a deception, because human beings are really immortal. So immortality is still more than 150,000 years at a stretch, okay? But we don't know that because we come here in this body for a limited time. We're tricked into coming here each time, and we come here, and when we come, we don't remember that we've been here many, many, many times before, you see. So we just go on, and we keep coming back to this same matrix video game system, instead of leaving the body, because the body is the trap. As I say, we're in a prison body, in a prison planet, in a prison mind, because our mind creates everything too, but even that is under the control of the matrix. So, and nowadays, as you can well imagine, the technology, that is a lot more, because that fills our mind with an artificial world. You know what I mean? Because if you go onto your computer and you believe everything that's on there, and even if you're using it for entertainment, that is filling your mind. That becomes your reality. It's taken over your mind for that time while you're using it. It's common sense. The same if I watch a TV program, which I do. And, I'm aware that then I enter into that TV fantasy world. I know it's a fantasy world, but that doesn't matter. While I'm watching it, it takes me over, okay? So it's no good saying to me, as I've done all my life, where I say, oh, that's okay, because I know it's a fantasy. I know when I watch a movie or something that it's fantasy, even though there again, I've said before that everything is in reverse. And because we do live in a video game with a master genius controller, because the master genius controller, Archon, whatever you like, okay, God-like thing, is a genius at manipulating the human being. The human being should be creating and controlling his own world in a natural way, but he's not. He's manipulated by the technical matrix, okay? And so our thoughts are taken over by it all in one way or another. Like I say, if I watch, but I will say, but it's so complicated. I know I sound like a mess saying all this, because there's so much information, and it's so convoluted, the actual system that we live in, this world that looks so simple to us, is actually so full of tricks and so much deception. It's unbelievable. It's only if you start to see some of it that then you'll realize it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. It's everything. It's not just one thing. It is everything, because if the Archon parasites can read your mind, which they can, and also you give them your mind nowadays via the technology anyway, but that is an open invitation, not only because we're natural spiritual beings and our frequency is low, because as I've said before, all is frequency, vibration and energy. So we're made up of that, and the world is made up of that, even though it's a matrix. It's a spiritual matrix in a funny kind of way, but it is ruled by technology because the archons are technological. So we are in a mass deception. We don't know that we're spiritual, and we are surrounded by a technological control system. So, so you have to think about that, but you have to see it because you know it in a way. We know we have the technology all around, whereas in the past we were not aware of the technology or that the world was not ours because it was more natural, and it was more ours in that sense. We had more potential to take more control of it. We didn't because we were still manipulated by the video game, because it's still a video game, because even if it's a natural world, if it is controlled and set up situations, shall we say, and ideas put to people to where they will then act on the ideas, it's still a video game. In other words, if I can convince you by a set up situation to do something that you normally wouldn't, then it's still a video game. The mind parasites are still operating. They're still taking over your mind to get you to do something. And that's how the video game works, because the master controller, the God entity, knows what we're thinking. He knows us. We don't know him, okay? You can imagine that if you're in a relationship, right? Because it is a relationship in a way, but it's a relationship you don't know exists. It's like if you were even in a real relationship, right, with another human being, as I've said before, imagine how much advantage that other human being has over you if they know what you're thinking. They know everything about you. They know what you're going to do before you do it because they know how you think, how you operate, and they can actually read your thoughts. So, it doesn't even matter what you say or what you do. They have the complete upper hand, and this is how this world works. This is how this video game works, because the archons that control it, the mind parasites, they know everything. They have the upper hand. That's how they can control this video game, this whole world, so perfectly and keep total control over it. Society is their control system. This is how they do it, because they know everything we think. They know how we will react to every situation if they set it up. So they set up the situations and we react accordingly, because it's a bit like myself. They've set me up all my life because they know my weaknesses, they know how I think. So it's like they're playing me all the time, and they do it with everyone else too. Maybe I'm even being played right this very minute by making a video because I'm wasting my time, and also because I don't get any views. So that proves it. So I'm expending energy, which they like because they want the bad energy. They keep the frequency low so then they can come in more and infiltrate the mind, in effect. Now, they do this more with some people than others. Obviously, they've done it with me very solidly through most of my life. Maybe right at this very second, they're not doing it quite so much because I have seen the setup a bit. Okay, I've seen the video game a bit, but most people don't see it, and I didn't see it for all my life either, because I thought we were in a natural world. I thought we were just this globe that floats around, that is all solid. I didn't think we had any input on it with our thinking. I didn't think we were spiritual beings. I didn't think any of this, and I certainly didn't think we were all connected, and I thought I had to use the telephone like everyone else to talk to someone, and essentially we do. Because if you're not aware of it and you're not operating it, and also we were, I'd like to say this, that I think originally, right, the original first human had so many more abilities before they closed down the DNA, to where we were superhuman. We could have become superhuman, but we didn't have a chance to develop. Instead, we were intercepted by these beings that came here and with their vast technology and impressed us to where we went and bred with them. And when we bred with them, we ruined our potential, because if a spiritual being breeds with a technical type being, they will lessen their potential for their abilities. And that's why I think all our DNA, the junk DNA, is all closed down. But also, I still think that we have some hope, because the fact that they keep us in a low vibration, because they're aware that everything is frequency, vibration, and energy, whereas we are not aware of that. We know it, science tells us. This is where I just put it together recently. But we still don't operate that way, and we don't think that way. Now, if we still didn't have some potential to perhaps pull ourselves up, and this is why I'm making the video, I would say they wouldn't have to keep us in the low frequency, but they clearly do. In other words, they keep us always to where we're never really high or really happy or that, because they keep us in the matrix by keeping it all low, to where we're angry a lot of the time, even if it's only subconsciously. You might be under the delusion, as I've been. Sometimes you get some happiness, you might laugh at a joke or something, but that's very temporary. In reality, we have our conscious and our subconscious mind. We all know that, but we do not have access to our subconscious mind. That was cut off with the intervention with the Archon parasites too. So we're creating with the subconscious mind, but that is largely taken over by them. And we invite them in by the low frequency, and they keep the planet in low frequency by keeping us obsessed with all the things that we do, by keeping us obsessed with society, with the mundane life that we have to live, keep us working, keep us worried about everything. We have to have money to survive, because we're not free, we're not self-sufficient. Originally, go back to a Garden of Eden, if you like, I always do this, we were free, we were natural, we had everything we needed, so we didn't have to stress, so we were at a high frequency, and we were potentially had the ability to activate all our DNA to what you would call superhuman qualities, to where we would have been totally telepathic, totally able to, even physically, we probably would have been much vaster in many ways. In other words, perhaps we could, and because our mind, which is also our prison, is down to a very limited amount, instead of using the whole lot, I believe that we were meant to be able to mentally do many, many things mentally, maybe even, because that's the limitation that we're in. We're meant to be able to even transport ourselves mentally to wherever we want to. And we're all connected. We're spiritual beings in a physical body. Our thought creates reality, and we're all connected. Look, I don't think that I can't grasp the potential of what we must have had. But by our intervention with these so-called gods, the Archon parasites, who impressed us at the time, because we had not developed these things. We were put here in a perfect environment in nature for us to develop our full mind and all our potentials to where we could have just did whatever we want, created whatever we want, moved and did whatever we want. But instead we are now what we are, what I am, a pathetical human being, limited in this world in every single way, physically and mentally. There again, the lifespan was cut down to where, well, when I say the lifespan, I mean that originally we would have been aware of the fact that we were not limited even in the lifespan, that we could have just kept going and going and going. Basically immortal, I suppose you could say. But there again, this business of where we are here for a limited time and we're obsessed with dying, obsessed with the limitations. All this is a trick of the matrix. And so the beings, when they come with their technology and their long lifespans and their impressiveness, their size, all this sort of stuff, naturally we would have thought they were gods. So we did not learn to develop the fact that we were meant to control this domain, that it was really our domain. Instead, we've handed it over to them, you see, and they've controlled it ever since, and they control it now. And we are now pathetical limitations, like, of what we were meant to be. We are almost nothing now, and we are now totally controlled by technology. So all our abilities will become less and less and less, even a little bit more. We're handing our mind, the little bit that's left, over to technology. And this is, that means we're handing it over to the matrix, to this fake world that controls us, that manipulates us in every way. And believe you me, humans must have been super in some way to have survived this long, with all this that's been going on down through thousands of years. Every time we get wiped out, by that I mean wiped out to where there's a lot of us are eliminated in numbers, then you'll have a baby boom. We've always fought back, but there is a limitation now, and with technology, that limitation is at its lowest. So we have to realise now that this is a very different situation to even in the past. But I have no doubt that, as you know, the civilizations have been wiped out in the past. The more humans go into any form of technology, unless it's natural, you can have technology, I would say. In other words, don't get me wrong. We do not have to live in a world where we can't have, even at this present time, even though we're pathetical, and I'm pathetical, we could still have, I think, conveniences, because we're now dependent on conveniences because we can't create for ourselves now. But maybe we could get it back, I don't know, if we try. But you can't do something if you don't know you have it. There again, can you? You can't fly if you don't know you've got secret wings. You can't be telepathic if you don't believe in that. If you believe more in this matrix, the religions and all the stuff that goes on, you don't believe in yourself, the old saying. There again, we have all this truth thrown at us. It's a minefield. It's a minefield, believe you me. You really have to be able to not figure it out, because we can't figure it out. It's too complicated. It's too encompassing, because we can't see it, because we're not the mind control God that is looking down and can see all our actions and manipulates. We're the pawns in it. So it's very hard for us to see that we're being manipulated and maneuvered, and you know, what I would say is you cannot beat the archons in any way. You cannot beat them. They have the upper hand. It is their domain now. We've given it over to them a long time ago, okay? You can't beat them. If you think that, that's foolish. I think that at the very most, this is what occurred to me, is we can only override them. We could override them in the sense that, because everything is frequency and vibration, but ours is low. So how do we, that is the only really way I think that we can, because they have to keep it at a low frequency and vibration in order to keep this matrix going, in order to actually control our actions and our thinking. And we also don't let them in as much. We think more for ourselves if we're at a higher vibration. You know yourself, if you're depressed, your mind is not your own. You're thinking negative. You can't think straight at all. Whereas if you're happy, you start to see things a lot more clearly. And this is what it is, you see. But how do you get yourself to a higher vibration, to a happier state, when you're surrounded by a negative matrix? How do you feel good about things if you're in a war zone? You know, if there are bombs going off around you, or even if you're just stressed all the time, right? For whatever reasons, physical and mentally stressed, how do you then raise your vibration? See, this is the trick of the matrix. This is where they have us. But I'm saying that this, I think, is the only way that you can actually, you can't beat them, because they have the control system. We have accepted society. We've let it happen that way. We've thrown nature away for technology. We were meant to be in nature. We were only meant to use natural technology. Even for conveniences, we should be using nature. That is our weapon. That is our benefit. That is what works for us. That is what keeps us high frequency and high, and would activate all our superpowers, you could say. Technology does the opposite. It operates for the Archon God that controls the world, okay? That's his beneficial system. That benefits him, not us. That gives him, us, control over the matrix, control over the video game, and control over us. We are the pawns then. Now, we accept this. We play in it. We agree to come here and play in it. But we don't realise that when we agree to come and play in this video game, that we lose our upper hand immediately because we don't know, we forget that we've agreed to play in a video game. So we're playing in a matrix that we're not aware we're playing in and that we don't have any control over. And we're losing touch with the natural world, and that also we have allowed to be completely destroyed almost by the matrix, by the technological God, because they like technology, they don't like nature so much because that doesn't benefit them. Their world is a world of low frequency and technology. Our world is meant to be a world of natural nature and high frequency, to where then we can soar. But instead we're living in a world of low frequency and technology, which is controlled by the Archon mind parasites. That's how people have described them, and that's exactly what they are. But that makes it sound very simple. And every time you turn your computer on, that is an Archon mind parasite, okay? But also it lowers your vibration to where the entities themselves can put thoughts into your head. Every time you feel negative towards another human being, because you're spiritual beings and we're all connected and our thought creates reality, all connected naturally. Every time we think negative about another human being, that is an Archon mind parasitic thought being put into us by the controllers of this matrix, okay? And if that thought comes into where you feel angry at some other human being, even though that other human being might be attacking you, right? This is the trick of it. But don't forget, the reason that other human being is attacking you is because they are controlled by the Archon mind parasites. They have been set up too. We are all set up. So we're in this mass confusion where we're fighting and hating one another, and that serves the matrix. It keeps the frequency low. The old saying, divide and conquer, that's what's happened. See, we're all one really, but now we think we're all one by the internet. That is not us being all one. That is the Archon control system one. That is not us. That is to control us. That is the video game. Do you see what I'm saying? That is not us at all. That is not us being connected. That is us being artificially connected and controlled by the Archon mind parasitic God that runs this whole thing, that has taken control over our earth. Now, and we worship technology now. We're using it all the time. So, you know, because we don't believe that if we sat under a tree and that we were in touch with nature, that we would be able to connect better and that we would be able to activate more abilities. We believe the artificial intelligence, the technology is the way. It's not, because we are spiritual beings. Spiritual beings, that's where we lost our power at the beginning, was because we bred and mingled with the technological God giants, okay? And I say giants because they're giants physically, but they're also giants mentally, technologically, and they are geniuses at that level. But humans were meant to be geniuses at a spiritual level, but they were not allowed to get to that level because they foolishly entertained them on this world. They should have said, please go away. You know, thank you very much. You're very interesting. If you need any help, you want a bit of gold or something, maybe we could give you some. But no, but instead, you know, we were like slaves for them. Because it wasn't like it was a proper interaction, I don't think. It was more of a takeover because, I mean, humans are very trusting and very generous, really. And as spiritual beings, that would have been our natural state anyway. So we had to be tricked, but we also probably were frightened, as we are now. We think that the world is ruled by the powers that be, by force. You know, we're frightened of force. We're frightened of physical force because we want to protect our physical body, even though we ourselves are not really the physical body. It's our weakness. That's what I say. It's our prison because we fear for it. We protect it at all costs. We'll fight for our physical body, for its survival, little knowing that it is not really our survival anyway, because it's limited. And, you know, we are really spiritual beings. I know this sounds very far-fetched, and I'm not a religious person, but this is really the reality of the world. But it's a reality that even I did not know. But I now realise it because it's come down hard on me, and I see it for a reality. Most of the other stuff that I'm talking about, I haven't seen myself, but I know it's there because I see the evidence of it. But I say this in truth, that I know that some things are a total fact for me. I might not be able to get on top of them because I, like everyone else, am trapped in this physical video game matrix that I should have more control over, but I don't, because I'm disconnected from my other fellow humans. They are all, and the same with myself, like we are all taken over by the mind around us, by the illusionary mind control world that we live around us. So if I go outside and something's happening, I'm going to react with fear and react a certain way, the same as everyone else. Even though I know that it is all a setup and illusionary, I still react too, because it's almost impossible not to. It's almost impossible to ignore something that is right in your face, or to even hear the noises. See, we're all distractions too. Like even today, I was like, because we're frequency and vibration. So they keep us under control by all this bombardment of the senses and the noises. You go outside and you want to be in commune with nature, and then you've got all this artificial noise going on by trucks going around, trains, aeroplanes going overhead. You know, even if it was someone just turning the radio on, automatically, you know, we are not in silence with nature. So we cannot activate even vaguely anything that is natural for us that will bring us up to where we can see things and do things and realize that we don't really need all the technology. And that even if we were going to use technology, we should be using natural technology. By that I mean we should be using nature to help us, because nature wants to help us. Nature is our friend. We are in sync with nature. We should actually even talk to nature almost. I know that sounds bizarre, but they are living things. Nature is like us. We are living things and they are too. The wind should be used to help us. And we should be able to control it with our thought, but we don't, because there again, the Archon world that we live in, the mind matrix and the physical matrix that they control too. It's total physical matrix that they control, because they use technology to control the matrix. So that means that even if I, as a human, was able to physically and mentally control, say something in nature, right? Don't forget that they have the technology to counter that, because we've given them the power. We've given the authorities, we've given the world the power to technically and physically control our world. So you see what I'm trying to say is that, in other words, it's like this. Like I say, if I could say bring rain, right? Because humans should be in contact with nature. And if their powers were at a high, this is what I believe, instead of like we are now, we could bring rain when we wanted it. Human beings are spiritual beings. Their thought creates reality, and they're all connected. If they're all connected, you can imagine how much we really could create and how much we could control the environment. We're meant to be totally in sync with nature. We control nature. We should be able to. We originally were meant to, but we bred with the archons, the ones that now control it, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. So that lessened our power to where all our DNA was cut off. We all know 98% junk DNA. If that was activated, we would know these things, I believe. And our mind, we only use a small percentage of our mind. And we do not know that we are creators. We think that the world is just here, and that it's that we, in fact, that's what I say, we bowed down to the Archon God originally and bred with him. That diminished us completely. Now, closed off the DNA, all this sort of stuff, okay? Now, I've said this before, but what I am saying is that even if right now, one human being, like there have been some that have been at a higher level, maybe your Jesus Christ and a few of these were at the higher frequency and able to, that's why they could do so many things. I'm just speculating there because I don't like to use examples, but I believe there probably would be some down through the centuries that have escaped the matrix, shall we say, escaped and been able to activate because of rising to a really high frequency, able to activate their whole body to where they have, more abilities, many more abilities, okay? And this is probably where your so-called myths of the Jesus Christ and things come in. But I would say that they probably are not myths. But that's just an example, because there could be others, and even he could be an illusion, because like I say, we live in an illusionary world. So I don't like to use specific names, but that does come to mind. If you believe that these people existed, then that's what they did, okay? They were at a higher frequency so they could activate how all humans were meant to be. And that's what I think they were trying to tell us too. That's what they came here for, to tell us this, to show us. And they did show us, but like I say, the Archon controllers, gods that rule this thing, they pretty much will come down on that, as you can see, and they did. Particularly if it's only one individual. Now, what I am saying is the same thing happens even if, particularly now, because we have invited technology, and so that means we let the technology disrupt our natural planet, okay? See, it operated differently thousands of years ago, but it was still controlled then too, but it was a lot easier for people to have woke up. They still didn't, obviously, because we still didn't see it. That's why I say this period of time must be where because if I can see it, it must mean that all of us were supposed to really see a lot more, because I'm certainly not one of you more academic or more worldly type of people that was aware of anything at all. Nothing, aware of nothing I was. Not even interested in the goings on of things around me or the world or anything. So, and not spiritual, not one that would sit down and go under a tree and meditate. No, I was one that didn't even go near nature. Always was fascinated and wanted to, but I was so mind controlled by the Archon mind parasites that I was frightened to. I've always wanted to be in the water and go to the beach, but I had mentally so many things put onto me that I never did that. So I was kept very much, that's why I know that I've been suppressed like everyone else. We're all suppressed. The things we're meant to do to make us feel good, they're usually kept from us, or we only get a little bit, very little bit of them. And that will depend on if you're working for the matrix too. In other words, if you serve the matrix a lot more, serve the God matrix a lot more, you will probably be allowed a little bit more happiness. But even that will probably only be a little bit, and you certainly won't be given all your abilities, because it's a God that wants you to serve him, not one that wants you to serve yourself. That's just not, that's an illusion too with the religions. The God that controls this world, and I say this world because I'm not saying that this God is the creator of all and everything. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that it is the God that controls and creates through humans in this world and in this domain. How far you want to take that? If you want to take it, of course it goes out into the solar system, and further than that. How far exactly it goes is another thing, but at some point I'm sure it's finished. I'm pretty sure that it is not the God, creator, controller of the all. That I'm pretty sure is definitely not the case. It could not be the case. Humans wouldn't exist otherwise. See, we are spark creators. We have to be. If our thought creates reality and we're all connected, that means that we were meant to develop along that line. in a natural world with nature to where we were at our full potential. Instead, we've went away from that, and we're now at the lowest potential that a human being could possibly be at. This is because our frequency is low and because we have allowed the beings to control our world. We did not say, when they came and visited us, we were like infants. So if we had been at our full potential, we would no doubt have said, hey, thank you very much, you're very technologically impressive, but I'm afraid I can do that myself anyway. You know, like I can do that just with my mind, so I don't need your technology, okay? Very nice to meet you, but you better go and find another planet to inhabit. You're welcome to visit if you want to, but if you come here to dominate and take over, I'm sorry, it might be best if you, if we said ta-da. That's how it should have been, but we were not developed. We were babies. We didn't know what we were meant to develop. We had not, they came too soon. If they had come a long time later, like I say, we would have been developed spiritually and we would have had all our abilities. So they would have been not only no match for us, they would not have been able to infiltrate or take over and make our world a total control matrix like it has. And they wouldn't have even wanted to stay because our frequency would have been not to their liking, because they can only really enjoy this world, shall we say, or even interact with it or even control it if our frequency is low, because they feed off our negative energy. They are parasites. They feed off us. We don't need them, but instead they have made us need them and their matrix. They've set it up so we are dependent on their matrix for our survival now at a very low level. Their society is their construct. Society is what they use to control us and to keep us dependent on society and in this world. It's hard to explain, but it's a trick, and they control us through that. We need them now. But originally we never did, and we shouldn't need them because they need us, because they need our bad energy. They need us to be kept unhappy and low because they are parasites. They need negative energy that gives them life. Without that, they would just go because they are not going to be fed, shall we say. But we are not meant to be that way. And that's an interesting thing too, because they have kept us in such a low frequency, and I've been guilty of this in my life too, I'll say this, okay? They have created and made humans down through the thousands of years a lot more like them, to where we now have personality types on this planet. And I've been guilty of it myself at times, where I actually will enjoy or kind of want to bring down another human being. And I'll feed off that energy unconsciously. And that's what they do. And they've created humans that are now like that too. By created, I mean they've set them up from the day they're born to where they end up with a negative personality, to where they like feeding off the negative energy of other human beings, because they become empty in themselves, because they don't know what they are, just as I didn't. Because even now I'm saying that we're spiritual beings in a physical body. Our thought creates reality and we're all connected. But I'm not living that way. I'm living in this physical matrix society that is all about restrictions and rules and anger and hate and competing. And I'm better than you. I'm a nothing. We don't think we're superior beings. We don't think we have any control. We're too busy competing at a pathetical human level with one another and feeding off that negative energy like the mind parasitic gods that rule this domain do. So they have made us like them instead of us being spiritual beings that are powerful. And when I say powerful, I mean that we should be ruling our own world. We should be at least ruling our own mind. We don't even control our own mind anymore. We don't control anything. You know, our whole society is a construct. Physically, we're trapped. The whole planet is a trap because physically it's everywhere, and even the technology is everywhere now too. So figured this all out. We are in, as I said before, a total trap in every single way. We're in a controlled system planet. You know that. We know that because we only have to look around. Everything is set up. We're in a prison planet, complete controlled prison planet. We're in a complete prison control mind. Even that is controlled by the elements, by sickness, by what we eat, by what we do, and that is controlled by the matrix. You know, how good the food is, how bad, everything is a control, and we're in a prison in our mind because we're controlled by all of this. So we can't think straight, we can't see it. It's very devastating, really. But if you wake up to it, if everyone woke up to it and raised the vibration, it's probably as simple as that then we would be free, and then we could throw away a lot of the technology, go back to nature, use nature even for technology, use the wind to power things, natural. Well, this is sort of basic stuff, because there again, I'm ignorant. I don't understand it. But just think about that. It's very basic. Obviously, originally, we didn't need technology even at a natural level because we were in sync with nature. So nature, this is, I know sounds far-fetched, would probably have been such our friend that, and our thought creates reality. So we basically would have just been able to create the most pleasant world that was conducive to benefit us, I would think. I know this sounds real science fiction and fantasy, but it's no less science fiction than the machine technology world that we live in. That would have seemed fantasy to most people hundreds of years ago. So a lot of these things can become reality, and they are reality. It just depends on how you want to look at it. You know, we're mind controlled by the technology. You know, that's the truth. Whereas if we were mind controlled by ourselves, controlled our own minds, we would see this and we would come into, creating what we want naturally. It's hard to explain, and it's hard to prove it and to put it into reality because, like I say, our reality is a technical reality. We've lost touch with our natural original being totally. But it's not how we were meant to be. It's not to our benefit. It is not good for us. It can only lead to more of the same of what the world is. You know, this is what I think and this is what I see. And I think most people can see it too, but they don't know how to get out of it, because that's right, because we've let the matrix create society, which means that we are dependent on it. We are the creators, but we are dependent now on a non-creator matrix that controls us. We create for the matrix God, not for ourselves, because he's manipulated and controlled us. It's a bit of a joke, not a very funny one, but everything is in reverse, as I say, in this world. We all know that. You only have to look round. And how we're going to turn it round, I think, has to be very simple, because there's no way that you can turn around a physical world if you have allowed, as we have, like, for instance, if you were going to fight someone, right, if you've given that other person weapons and you have none and you've only got your hands, you know that that other person is going to be able to defeat you in a fight. So you have to find another way to fight that personal enemy, should we say, because you've already given them, we've given this matrix the power to control us. The society that we've allowed to happen now controls us. So we are not free to just say, oh, well, yeah, we're meant to be creative beings and our thought creates reality and we're all connected. That's useless to us, because we are trapped food-wise, everything around us. We have to pay for everything. It's no longer free. So we have to work then to get things. whereas originally it was our world and everything was for us and free. We didn't have to pay for the water. We didn't have to pay for the food. It was all ours. It was our world. All we had to do was be in sync with it, in sync with nature. In other words, the tree would give me fruit because I'm in sync with it. My thought creates reality, and that is a living thing like me, and it will give me fruit. Now, we cut the trees down for our own purpose. This is not us. This is the God control matrix God. The mind parasites convinced us, after they'd taken all our physical and mental abilities from us, convinced us then to destroy our natural world, so that means that we have even less hope of getting our abilities back, because these things raise our vibration. These things are what are part of us, because it was our world. We created it. We're the creators. You see what I'm saying? All of us, our thought creates reality, and it was all part of us. So it's all part of us in a way. Nature is part of us. Technology is not. Technology is part of the technological God that rules the world, okay? So I don't know whether I put this across very well. It's complicated. But what I am saying is that, yeah, even the few superior beings that have come here, when I say superior, we're all meant to be superior. We're all meant to be at the same level. We're all meant to be at high vibration. But like myself, we're all low vibration. But the few that have come, that have been at high vibration, and that could have created and did create with their thinking, and knew that we were all connected, they're only one, they're only singular beings. I could probably name a few, you can probably think of a few. I mentioned one. That's assuming you believe that. But even if they were here right now, if Jesus Christ was right here now and he said, oh, I'm going to bring the rain for you because there's a drought and my people need water and they're thirsty and the crops are dying. Not that most of it's genetically engineered anyway, but he would have a problem too, even though some people would see him as God, but he was just a superior being that raised the vibration as humans are meant to be, right? That's what I'm saying. But still a God, because he was telling everyone, you all have God in you, you see. God is inside you. You see what I mean? He was telling us that. You know, and we are told by even the naughty God that rules, he still tells us the truth because he has to, because otherwise this domain would be taken from him too, evidently, because he's not the God of everything, you know. While he plays within the rules and tells us the truth, but we don't know it and we ignore it or we go along with him, then it's okay. We cannot have anyone that will help us or do anything for us, because we still do have free will, little as it is, not much, because we're so manipulated. Because if you believe everything that's around you, even though you have free will, you're going to go along with what's around you. So you're going along with the mind control matrix of the mind parasitic God that rules this world. Now, what I was saying was that if Jesus was here now and he tried to bring rain, because he's capable of it, as humans were all meant to be, he would still have the opposition of the mind control God matrix, who controls technology that can control the weather, okay? So he would have to operate against that. So even he would have a darn hard time. See what I was saying? Because we're now operating in the natural world and the technical world. You're operating as human beings. We were meant to be natural beings using our own natural abilities, but we're up against the technological God that rules, that is the controller of this video game matrix that we live in. So, and we have bowed down to that. So there again, there is still a choice. We can go one way or the other. And I've said this before, and this has been the case all along. There was always a choice. But if you get tricked, or if you don't know all the information, is what I'm saying. See, like myself through my life, I didn't understand all the human beings around me. I didn't understand the matrix. I didn't understand that things were set up and it was always a test, and that I always had free choice, but I didn't know that it was all set up. I thought it was all random. So naturally, you don't have the upper hand, because without all the knowledge, you're in the dark. So you're going to make the wrong choice, even though you have free choice. You see, this is the problem. Oh, I do hope some of this makes sense to someone. I know it's hard because even for me, if you'd have said this to me only a little while ago, I'd have said, oh, look, I cannot get that. I don't buy it. I don't believe it, because it is like saying everything is false. And it's very hard to accept that everything is false, that everything is an illusion and everything is a setup.